What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about car racks. What rack is best for you? I recently had the opportunity to get a new vehicle, and whenever I say new vehicle, I mean new vehicle to me. What we have here is a 2008 Saturn Vue, and it's big enough to be comfortable, but small enough that I can't really get my bikes inside of it. I can get one, but I can't get any more in there without stacking them on top of each other, and I just don't really want to do that. This vehicle did not come with any kind of rack with it, and I went ahead and I went through and tried to find a good option for this vehicle. There are three types of bike rack you can get for this vehicle. You can go with the roof mount rack that just goes right on top. There's some good points and bad points to this. There's also a trunk mount rack that you can get for vehicles. There's some good points and bad points about that. And then there's going to be a trailer hitch version for vehicles, and we're going to be going over that. On this particular vehicle, we actually, first thing I did was I checked to see about a trunk rack. Although trunk racks are not my favorite, I was still checking to see about the availability of the trunk rack. And on a 2008 Saturn Vue, when I was going through and checking about those, I found that there was very few racks available for this vehicle because of the fact that this vehicle has a plastic spoiler on the back, which a lot of modern SUV vehicles actually have that spoiler on top, and that can pose a problem for installing a bike rack. And indeed, it posed a problem for this one. I found Ceres had a single rack available for the trunk. However, the strap had to go above the spoiler. Well, it wasn't actually above, it was very high to keep the pressure off of the spoiler. And that's one of the main problems with these trunk racks, is if you've got a plastic spoiler on the top of the vehicle, what happens is the pressure from the rack actually pulls down on the plastic and it could break. Worst case scenario, you could actually lose the rack off the vehicle. And the problem with that is if you're driving down the road and your bike and rack comes off of the vehicle on the highway, one, your rack is messed up, two, your bike is messed up, and three, if a vehicle were to hit your bike on the highway and rack, you are actually responsible for the damages to that vehicle. So on, as far as that goes, you need to be concerned about that. As far as the Ceres rack goes, one, it was a very expensive trunk rack, one of the more expensive ones out there, because you have to have a special one for this vehicle due to the spoiler. I had to buy an adapter to work with this vehicle, which pushed the price well above what I was wanting to spend. Also, the problem with that is, with that adapter, I can't open up the trunk because it would damage the vehicle. Also, you can't use the rear windshield wiper. So as far as the trunk rack goes, that really didn't make much sense to me, because with spending that much money, I'm just that much closer to better car racks for your bike and car. Now, everything points to the hitch rack for this vehicle because of the fact that I can actually open up the trunk area with the rack still on there. It's much better on gas. Plus, also, the cost for this particular vehicle is actually better. Okay, the hitch for this is $190, and luckily I already have an existing hitch rack on another vehicle that I can just transfer over to this, so it's going to cost me less than $200. The other thing is, even if I didn't have a hitch, $190 for the rack, the hitch itself, sorry, and then a good hitch rack for this vehicle is going to be starting in the low hundreds. Okay, it's still about the same price as the trunk rack for this vehicle, and that's the reason why I'm going to go with the hitch. Every time you're done with the trunk rack, you really want to remove it, because the nylon straps are actually damaged by sunlight, and if you don't remove it, you can damage the rack. Many years ago, I sold a trunk rack to a customer. The reason why we went with that is because with her vehicle, she had a Honda that could only take a Class 1 hitch, and whenever you have a Class 1 hitch, you cannot use a hitch rack on that vehicle without doing some modifications. She opted to go for the trunk rack because of the cost of the rack. I showed her how to install this rack, and after installing it for her, we put the bike on there, everything was good, and I explained to her that she needed to, whenever she's not using the rack, she needed to remove the rack because of the nylon straps, and that the fact that the sunlight will break down the nylon over time. She was driving around town, and I would see her here and there around town over the weeks and months and year that she had this. And every time I saw her, she might have the bike on there, but most of the time she didn't have the bike on there. She just had the rack. And these straps were black, but over time they started to turn dark brown, and then they turned into a light tan, and you could actually see that the nylon straps were actually starting to fray. Now, she had this rack on her vehicle for going on 2 years. And I remember that near the end, I commented to her. She came in, and I told her that she really needed to get a new rack because the nylon straps were fraying. I told her that she needed those a new rack. She didn't listen to me, and she came in about 2 weeks later, very upset, and she told me that the bike and rack had fallen off on the highway while she was doing 70 miles per hour. So it ruined her bike. She's lucky that nobody hit this, because she would have been responsible for the damages. And I explained to her, I told her that she needed to be, taking off the rack, but she didn't listen to me, and in the end she lost her favorite bike. The other option for the vehicle is the roof rack. And the problem with a roof rack is cost. You're talking a considerable amount of money, because each of the trays are going to cost you a couple $100. Now, I'm close. I don't know the exact price because with the cost, I just stopped even looking. So each tray costs you, close to a couple $100 each, and then you'd have to get the load bars. You'd have to get the adapters. Just the expense was just so high. Plus also, whenever you install a roof rack on the vehicle, you can kiss your gas mileage goodbye. So it's something that's going to continue costing you money over time because of the initial expense to get it. And then since you're paying so much more in gas, as far as frequency of going to the gas station over the years, that is something that is just a big no as well. Plus, also, you have to pick the bike up and you have to put it on top. And I'm 6 foot tall, and it's a struggle for me to put it on top of this vehicle right here. Anybody who says that it doesn't affect your gas mileage that much, I know from experience, because I had a 1985 Toyota Supra that had a roof rack on there. Now, I did not put this roof rack on this Supra. Whenever I got the vehicle, it had the roof rack on there, and I drove it around for several months with the roof rack on there, and it was a fun car. If anybody has a chance to get a 85 Toyota Supra, I highly recommend it. That was a great car. Well, I took the roof rack off this Supra, and there was a noticeable difference in gas mileage. This car was getting much better gas mileage without that roof rack. So roof racks do really mess up your gas mileage. Okay, so the roof rack is out for this vehicle. The trunk rack is definitely out. So the best thing for this vehicle, I figure, is a receiver hitch rack. Now, this vehicle did not come with the hitch on the vehicle, so I did some research and I was looking at the hitch racks, and basically the hitch racks were going to cost about $200 for the hitch rack. I went to my local auto parts store and they had a coupon for 20% off for a hitch for this vehicle. I got the CURT hitch. CURT makes some of the best hitches for a vehicle. It's an American-made product, and they do a very good job on those hitches. This is going to be my third CURT hitch on a vehicle, and they have done really well. So with the coupon, I was able to get the hitch for this vehicle for it was $190 for this, and we're going to go ahead and order this hitch, and we're going to go ahead and install this hitch on this vehicle. Alright, now that we've got this CURT hitch in, we're going to go ahead and install it on this car. I'll just show you how easy CURT makes installing these racks. So let's go ahead and open this thing up. And let's see. We've got some hardware. We have a very heavy-duty hitch here. This is a Class 3 hitch. So it actually is pretty sturdy. It's got a 350-pound tongue weight, 3,500 towing capacity. Not that I'm planning on doing that with this. And made in USA. So let's go ahead. It looks like we're going to be using 6 bolts. So let's look for any instructions. And let's see. We're just going to be using existing nuts in the frame. So we're going to have to remove the exhaust hangers, and then raise hitch into position between frame rails, lining holes. torque 12 millimeter fasteners to 79 foot-pounds. Okay. So I need to get some spray lubricant to be able to release the exhaust mount, because it's rubber and it does slip. So I'll be right back. Okay. So let's get this camera here. Let's look under here. Okay, so they're saying that we need to remove that. So, and maybe that over there as well. So we're gonna spray a little there. Just remove that one. Now we need to remove the other one. So don't be afraid to get dirty. Okay, which one can I remove first? And this thing may want to drop down. There's one more. Okay, so there's 3 of them on this. Okay, it's a lot of weight supported on. Oh, no, I have one more. Okay, so this is going to start to drop. Okay, so I've got one. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 mounts, it looks like. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our screws and see about mounting this thing. one of the major bonuses of this system is I can still get into the back of my vehicle even with the rack up. There are a couple of hitch racks that you can get. This particular one is actually a tray mount rack, which is one of my favorites because it makes putting a bike on so much easier than the older traditional style with the arms coming out. This one allows me to install a bike in just mere seconds, whereas it does take a little bit longer for the traditional style. I'm going to grab a bike and I'm going to show you how easy this installs. You can adjust the width of the wheels. However, once you have a bike that you put on here, you don't need to mess with the width. I'm just going to grab a junk bike from the back over here. Now, after a good long hard ride, you can just put this bike on here, lock it down, and install these extra straps on the wheels just as a little bit of a precaution, and then you're pretty much good to go. So this really is so much easier than the traditional style. You're good to go. And this thing is not going to be going anywhere except home with you. Be sure to keep this all in mind when choosing a rack for your vehicle. And that's why I chose a hitch rack for this vehicle. Now, just to recap, all three of these racks are good. The trunk rack is going to be typically the most cost-effective for the average person. However, the ease of use and the fact that you can actually damage your vehicle is going to be a factor in purchasing this rack. The receiver hitch rack, hopefully your vehicle already has a receiver hitch, which is going to help you with the cost savings. Now, in my case, I already had a receiver hitch rack. I just didn't have a receiver hitch for this vehicle. And for me, it made sense. It was cost effective and also so easy to make this choice for this vehicle. Now, it's possible later on I might put a roof rack on this if I feel the need that I need to get more bikes on here, but I really don't want to spend more money on gas every time I go to put gas in this thing, as far as the frequency of having to put gas in this. But this is going to be the new shop vehicle, and I might have to say that, you know, that's part of advertising. I think I'm going to try to stick with the receiver hitch rack. We'll see. Hopefully this helped y'all out, and if it did, leave me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to tell your friends. Check out some of the other videos on the corner of the screen. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.